Joining us now from Phoenix, Arizona is broadcaster and commentator Josh Bernstein. Josh, thank you for joining us on Power Hour. I want to start with the horrific anti-Semitic terror attack against peaceful Jewish protesters that took place in Boulder, Colorado. At least a dozen people were injured, including a Holocaust survivor. The suspect has been named as Mohammed Solomon, and he was allegedly setting people on fire and was heard shouting, "End Zionists, they are terrorists."
We're early in the investigation, but some details have emerged. I'm able to confirm there are 6 victims, ages 67 to 88. All of them have been transported to local hospitals. This attack happened at a regularly scheduled weekly peaceful event. Witnesses are reporting that the subject used a makeshift flamethrower and threw an incendiary device into the crowd. The suspect was heard to yell, "Free Palestine," during the attack.
And we're learning more about the suspect, Mohammed Solomon. He was an Egyptian illegal that entered the United States during the Biden administration. Now, he's been charged with attempted murder, assault and a hate crime, and he could be spending the rest of his life in prison. Now, Josh, this comes not long after the anti-Semitic attack in Washington, D.C., where 2 young people were killed. This is just horrific.
It absolutely is. And look, me being a Jewish American, it's a terrible, terrible thing that's happening. In America, 3% of the population is Jewish, yet almost 55% of all hate crimes are done against Jewish people. So it's a real problem. It's a problem that's getting out of hand. And look, I think it stems from the colleges. Look, if you're going to go on a college campus and you're going to scream, "Intifada, Intifada, bring it to America," and not only have the students do it, but also have the professors and the faculty do it, that's not freedom of speech. That is a crime. You're literally calling for, jihad against your own government and your own people. So between the media, between the Democratic Party, between these college campuses, this has to stop. There's been a huge increase in Jewish Americans that are now exercising their Second Amendment rights to protect themselves because, again, it's just a terrible travesty, and it keeps happening. And I think the reason it's happening is because of the influences out there that are fanning the flames of racism and hatred.
And you mentioned the media. Is the media covering this terror attack fairly? Is it getting the coverage that it deserves in the same way that any other terror attack would?
Not necessarily. They're calling it an event, or they're calling it, I think I heard one newscaster say that it was an incident. Well, no, it's a lot more than an incident. Innocent people have been burned, while alive, and this crazed, person is running around with Molotov cocktails and spraying fire on people that, were in a peaceful demonstration to basically, push for the release of Hamas hostages. So it's almost ironic when you think about it, as far as, what they were looking to do. They were peaceful, obviously. And this Solomon character certainly was not. But again, overstayed his visa. It was up in 2023. He was supposed to report. He didn't report. He stayed. And then he, I guess, even asked for more asylum. And then, this is the result of this. So it's just a sad situation. And when the Democrat Party, when the media, when the colleges, when the universities finally step up and say enough is enough, then we'll see much less of these types of attacks.
Absolutely. I want to talk to you about the scenes out of Paris this weekend, where 2 people were killed, hundreds of people were injured during what was supposed to be a nationwide celebration in Paris following PSG's victory in the Champions League final. This is what unfolded. Now, that is not the type of chaos that you would ever typically see during a football celebration. Now, it's being suggested that this comes as France faces significant challenges with immigration. There are also reports and vision of the riots where people are waving the Palestinian flag and chanting F Israel, other anti-Semitic language, as cars were firebombed. Really disturbing to see. What do you make of all of this?
Well, first and foremost, let's correct one thing that the media has not been getting accurate. They say that this riot or this violence was a direct result of this PGS, whatever it is, championship soccer tournament. But it's really not, because it actually started 2 hours earlier at the Champs-Élysées. Did I pronounce that correctly?
Possibly,
I don't know
yes.
French too much, but hopefully I did okay on that one. But it started about 2 hours beforehand. There was reports of violence and rioting 2 hours beforehand. And then, of course, it got really, really bad during the match, and then after the match, and then, of course, into Saturday night, late into Sunday. And it's just unbelievable. You know, you have to look at the root cause here. And I think the root cause, honestly, was, again, a lot of these people, a lot of these foreigners and immigrants coming into France. You know, you've got about 9 million of these immigrants that have come into the country in the last, 15, 20 years or so. And when you have this unfettered immigration, these are some of the results of it. And so I don't necessarily see this 100% as just a reaction to a soccer game or a tournament. I see this as a much bigger problem. And that problem is the fact that when you have open borders, as we had for 4 years in the United States of America, that thankfully are now being closed, these are some of the results. And in reality, a lot of folks come into countries, they don't want to assimilate. And I've said this before many times, immigration without assimilation is an invasion. And these people need to be able to assimilate to the French way of life, or to the American way of life, or the German way of life, or whatever it may be. And, go and embrace that new country, come in legally, come in the right way, and contribute to society. But when you have no go zones in most of European capitals and big cities and things like that, these are some of the reactions that you get.
Yeah, it's a very fair point. I want to talk to you about what's going on in the US at the moment and the politics there, and particularly the Democrats, because they're still all over the place. And there are even calls for Jasmine Crockett to lead the Democratic Party. Now, she's spoken out claiming that Republicans approach her pretty often just to tell her how much they like her. Listen to this.
Republicans poll all the time, and I have no idea what all is happening in their polling, but I can tell you in real life that I've had a number of Republicans that approach me as they see me out, and they say, hey, I just wanted to let you know that I really like you. Like, we come from completely different parties, but I believe that you are fighting for the people. I believe that you are trying to do what's best for all of us. I may disagree with how you feel like we get there, but I agree with your fight. And I think that that's what's scary for them, is this idea that it's not just, say, Black folk that are listening to me.
Josh, when I first heard this, I thought, oh, she's probably not really telling the truth. And then I thought about it, and maybe this is a strategy. Republicans are encouraging her, saying, keep going. That would be perfect for us. And they will keep telling Jasmine Crockett just how much they like her.
Jasmine Crockett is a loathful human being. This is someone that made fun of the Texas governor, calling him Governor Hot Wheels. This is also someone that should be investigated for crimes, because she actually was part of the Tesla takedown. She even said during that time that, oh, all she wants for her birthday is a, quote, Tesla takedown. There's video of her on Zoom calls talking and strategizing about this. It's terrible. But here's what I would say to Jasmine Crockett. Prove it. How many Americans out there that are going to see this broadcast will come forward and say, that are Republicans, that, yes, I support Jasmine Crockett? I don't believe it at all, and I think most people don't believe this at all. You're possibly correct in the fact that maybe they're trying to push this so that she becomes the nominee, so that she would be easier to beat, which I certainly agree that she would. But again, I don't believe Republicans are lining up, as she wants to say, and secretly supporting her or a possible candidacy.
Yeah, a bit of fake news from a Democrat. Who would be surprised? But looking at the Democrats, their strategy is still all over the place. In your opinion, who should be the leader?
Oh, goodness. A ham sandwich at this point. Look, I don't even want to even go that route because I would hate to say that, hey, this would be the good person. But I would say if I was to put a name out there that has some resemblance of sanity, it would certainly be the sportscaster gentleman, the African American gentleman, Stephen Austin, I think his name is, who does ESPN Sports. At least he's able to understand that the Democrat Party has a major issue, and the problem is that they're too extreme and they're too radical, and they don't adhere to the Constitution. They don't believe in our founding principles and values. And so when you put all that together, who do they have? I mean, they're going to have Bernie Sanders. I don't think that's going to work, right? So I don't think he's going to be there. Honestly, I don't even think Josh Shapiro, because sadly, I think the party is too anti-Semitic to even put someone up who is Jewish. So who else could it be? I don't think it's going to be Gruesome Newsom or Gavin Newsom. I like to call him the Ted Bundy of politicians. He's very suave and smooth and well-dressed. But, I just don't see that they have anyone really right now on the bench. And I guess that's good for Republicans.
Yeah, look, I agree with that assessment. Let's talk about the tariffs. The tariff deadline is looming, and Reuters is reporting today that the Trump administration wants countries to put their best offer forward by Wednesday, as officials want to accelerate talks with multiple partners ahead of the tariff deadline. Now, Trump has also posted today, if other countries are allowed to use tariffs and we're not allowed to counter, our country doesn't have a chance of economic survival. So what are you expecting that we'll see by Wednesday?
Well, I think that we're going to see a whole bunch of countries come forward and work out some trade negotiation deals. But let's take this a little bit further. The Supreme Court is going to do the right thing here, because the president, through the executive authority vested in him, has the right to negotiate trade deals. So I don't care what this international trade organization, this little, powerless little thing in New York City that jumped in and tried to stop him. Of course, that was immediately stayed when it was appealed, the decision. But in the long run, remember this: the president has multiple opportunities and tools at his disposal in order to facilitate trade negotiations. So I'm not worried about it. I think that he's going to be able to pull this off, and he'll be able to have as many trade or deals as he would like.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see what happens. I'm pretty confident that we are going to be seeing countries absolutely putting their best offer forward and presenting a pretty good offer for Donald Trump. But we will see. I want to finally speak to you about, we did speak about the media in the United States, but it seems like there's still a bit of fake news around. The Washington Post has a piece out this week with the headline, "The Mysterious Drop in Fentanyl Seizures on the US-Mexico Border." I mean, is anyone going to tell them? Who's going to tell them what and who's behind this mysterious drop?
Yeah, I'll pull a Joe Biden. Shh, the border's closed. The border is closed, okay? That's why you're having this happen. Look, the Department of Justice and the FBI have been doing amazing work busting fentanyl organizations and cartels and doing everything that they can to make our streets and our cities safer and to save lives. That's what this is all about. And so I think with that, and of course, shutting down the border, getting rid of TPS, getting rid of all these other things that the prior auto pen administration, as I like to call it now, has been doing, I think it's a 180. President Trump ran on securing the border, and of course, promises made, promises kept.
And the White House has unveiled a new portrait of President Donald Trump. Let's bring up the image if we can. I know he still looks pretty fierce in the picture. There it is, a little bit different to the one that was put up during his inauguration. But Josh, can I get your reaction to it?
I like it, but for my money, I want the fist in the air and the fight.
It's iconic.
I think that's so representative of President Trump, of America, of this new resurgence in patriotism, and of course, the oncoming golden age, which will start probably, in my estimation, around mid-November of this year. But watch out, January, February of 2026, America's economy will be the greatest in history. $14 trillion worth of investment coming in. I can't wait.
Broadcaster and commentator Josh Bernstein, thank you so much for joining us on Power Hour. Great to speak with you.
Thank you. Anytime, any topic.